Welcome back, everybody, to WWTA News. Thank you for returning for another episode. Got a few tweets I want to get through today and a little bit of information and just have a general conversation. So, where do we begin? Well, we can start off with hitting that like button. It's always greatly appreciated. And if we're returning, we can always hit that subscribe button because we want to come back again and again and again. All right. So look, crazy things going on, right? So market cap still has not gotten over 1 trillion, and yes, that's just retailers' fault, right? There's not much money in that retail market. What else is going on? So, right, everybody talking to town is what's going on with the United States and this money situation. So we'll find out. I believe I got a news article that we're going to check out, about China. And we've got storms, quote unquote, they make them out to be the worst thing happening and they're destroying areas. And of course, it causes influx of money and money going in and money coming out, For the most part, the big news is the actual debt that the United States holds. And which brings me to the reason why this channel exists, right? The high amounts of debt. So all the news articles that we go through, all the stuff that we're going to ever chat about, and please feel free to get in the comments section and share your thoughts. It's always going to come back to what's going to happen, mainly with the United States, because that's where I am for the most part, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers are from the United States, and that's always going to be the main topic, what's really going to happen in the U.S. So let's just get into some of these tweets, catch this news article, and let's just see where it goes. So let's jump in with a tweet from Bitcoin Magazine. It says, just in, the United Nations calls on the United States Fed and other central banks to halt interest rate increases. Talking to town, right? For the most part, inflation, right? So interest rates are just being brought up, which makes it more difficult for people to purchase things with, for instance, credit, because that's pretty much what it really is for. How much interest are you going to pay on this loan that you're going to take out or on this thing that you're going to finance? And so to make this easy, for those of you who are unaware, the United States is built on IOU. IOU. Think long and hard about that. It's an IOU system, and it's not the only system that's like that. But we're in the United States, and I'm speaking of me and most of these viewers. And I'm not familiar with most other countries, but I would assume most of them are going to be under some form of IOU system, right? We can go back in time and look at one point in time, when you go far enough back, systems were based on gold and silver. We had coins, we had bartering, we had trade, right? And so when you would barter, you'd swap a good or a service for a good or a service, right? That was actually something tangible in exchange for value, right? Then one of the oldest ones was coins, right? So coins would be swapped out, and internationally, yes, there was things like grain, corn, or maize, different things like that, wool. All these things were negotiating tools for trade, right? So all that existed. And then we entered into a system where it was an IOU, right? If you're in the United States, you can go all the way back when you kept hearing the debates of raising the debt ceiling, right? I think I first started hearing about this lifting of the debt ceiling when Obama was in office. It became this big nasty thing to discuss. If we don't raise the debt ceiling, our credit rating is going to drop, and everybody went crazy about it, right? And I remember hearing military personnel talking about if they don't make a decision that they weren't going to get their allotments and payments from the government, and as well as people that are receiving Social Security and other different benefits that existed, that those things weren't going to go through because, raise the debt ceiling. Well, what were they really talking about? The maximum IOU that we can put out there, right? So that hey, if we print this money, put this money in the banks loan this stuff out, we haven't paid it off. We have nothing to give it value, right? Other than IOU notes. And then you'd have countries buy these IOU notes. Other nations like China will buy up IOU notes. They call them what? Secured bonds, right? So then they would buy up these secured bonds, these IOUs, and then so they would wait to get maturity on that bond or the IOU, the security note, and that's them getting their payment. The maturity was them the payoff, right? So when the contract or the bond comes to maturity, it's supposed to be paid off. So that's that IOU system. So when we hear something like the United Nations calling on the United States federal Fed and other central banks to halt increased interest rate increases, they're saying like you're making it worse. We need you to stop. We need you to stop. You're making it worse. And so, most citizens haven't seen the bulk of this problem yet, but it's on the way. We saw in another article, 10 trillion dollars was lost in the stock market over a period of time for the top 10% or something like that. Losing wealth from the stock market, and they said, oh, it's guaranteed you're going to see the effects of this in the coming years. And so we will. It doesn't necessarily mean that because something happened yesterday or today that you got to see the effects of it tomorrow. That's not how that works. So anyways, yeah, let's keep it going. Just in, McDonald's now accepts Bitcoin payments in Lugano, Switzerland. So I mean, of course it's a volatile asset, right? I can't really call it a currency. They say Satoshi is a currency that runs on the Lightning Network. So Satoshi, they could use that for a currency. But yeah, if it's accepted for payment, right? It doesn't appear to be that we're moving into that system, right? They're accepting it for payment. Just in again, right? Bitcoin Magazine. Boy, they be just in it a lot, don't they? Inflation hits 83% in Turkey, a new 24-year high. You see, these interest rates going up like this make it harder for people to borrow money. And it's even worse if a bank loans them money with such a high interest rate, and then they can't even make that first or second payment. Then somebody's up Turd Creek for some stuff that was purchased and they couldn't fulfill the maturity of that contract. So somebody gets their feelings hurt in the system like that. And it happens all the time, and it's been happening. So no secrets there, right? But let's continue. All right, we got another one just in from Bitcoin Magazine. Thank you so much. I love Bitcoin Magazine, right? Mexican senator, Bitcoin will be legal tender. Yes. Get it done, because it's just helping, bring in this new system that all nations and countries are going to bring in. They're bringing it in, whether you care to be aware or not. It's coming in. This is the new system. It's coming in. And so we're going to see more and more of these countries, nations, coming into the space and passing these laws. And so prepare yourself. Awesome, right? We got an article that says the UN calls on the Fed and other central banks to halt interest rate increases. So we can get to the story. The Federal Reserve and other central banks risk pushing the global economy into recession, followed by prolonged stagnation if they keep raising interest rates, a United Nations agency said Monday. And again, you're raising these interest rates, you're going to make it harder to borrow money. And it's not just the common person that's going to have this issue. Businesses will as well. And so this is going to cause, like if a business can't, let's say for instance, take loans to get the goods it needs, right? Then, that's less stuff they can sell. Then it's going to trickle down to where they don't need so many employees, which is going to trickle down to shrinking their inventory, shrinks the size of their store. They don't need a big building anymore. And then eventually this location gets closed, that location gets closed, and you can see jobs get lost, and it's a trickle down, right? So, it's a trickle down. And so that's why, yeah, man, don't be jacking up that interest rate, right? Unless you're intentionally trying to do something. It's pure speculation. I don't know. Pure speculation. The warning comes amid growing unease about the haste with which the Fed and its counterparts are raising borrowing costs to contain surging inflation. India's central bank Friday said the global economy was facing a third major shock after the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine in the form of aggressive, rate increases by central banks in rich countries. So, I mean, so of course people that have finance can continue to play in these games. Those who do not, they can't. They can't. So you're going to start seeing, yes, immediately, in my personal opinion, just the more we think about this, you're going to probably start to see that trickle down effect happening more and more frequently. Jobs are going to end up displaced and displacing employees, and so then it's just going to trickle down the whole system. We're going to see job loss. We're going to see companies, businesses shutting down. They're not going to be able to afford to play the game anymore. If you can't afford to continue to get the stuff you need to do a particular job that you do, you can't do the job. You can't do the job. You don't need the employees. You don't need the employees. You're shrinking down. You're shrinking down. There's less types of work you can do. And then as that happens, you eventually get into a position where you just got to close your doors. And that's for businesses, right? We talk about people. People can lose their jobs and will lose their jobs. And then we talk about mortgages, and then loans on cars, student loans. We started talking about people that pay their debts with credit cards. You know what I'm saying? They pay their bills with credit cards. And so, the first hit may have been you got behind because you lost a job and you never were able to catch back up. So you've been in that credit card paying these bills. And then, the economy takes another hit, and then you're out of a job again. And it's like, wow, you're already back behind in debt, some numbers, and it just gets worse. It just gets worse. So, I don't know. It goes on to say, in its annual report on the global economic outlook, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development said the Fed risks causing significant harm to developing countries if it persists with rapid rate rises. The agency estimated that a percentage point rise in the Fed's key interest rate lowers economic output in other rich countries by 0.5% and economic output in poor countries by 8% over the subsequent 3 years. And again, it really does come down to the point where the poorer community suffers the most. Now, everybody's going to suffer. Everybody's going to suffer. It's just on different levels. I don't know. But let's get to the next article. We got one here that says China tells state banks to prepare for a massive dollar dump and yuan buying spree as Beijing's prior interventions have failed to stem its currency's worst year since 1994. If this isn't ugly news, I don't know what is. It goes on to say the People's Bank of China has told major state-run banks to prepare to shed dollar holdings while snapping up offshore yuan, which has continued to fall despite prior interventions, sources told Reuters. And this to me sounds like the nation of China is calling back its currency and sending out the United States currency from its lands. So for any of you that might be looking at, for example, a biblical reference, there's one for you there. And in those days, nation shall go back to nation. I mean, I don't know, speculation, could be. But to continue, the scale of this latest effort to prop up the yuan will be big and could provide a floor to the Chinese currency, according to the report. I believe Obama had said it, in the future, nations' currencies would be valued based on their goods and services. And so they're going to back their own currencies, and China is only doing the same thing that all other nations and countries are going to do. They have to do it because that's how the new system's going to work. The article continues to say the amount of dollars to be sold hasn't been decided yet, but Reuters said it will primarily involve the state banks' currency reserves. Their offshore branches, including those based in Hong Kong, New York, and London, were ordered to review offshore yuan holdings and check to see that dollar reserves are ready. Because we don't want them anymore, is what they're saying. It's IOU. And all the systems are IOU, but it's like the United States has technically done the most and lived high on the hog for free. You know what I'm saying? Let's just be real. if you do something on credit and you don't pay it off, or you file bankruptcy, the debt still exists. Did you pay it off? No, it still exists. Did you pay it off? No, but it'll be forgiven. So it's kind of like a problem, that grew inside this place that we call the United States. And so we can only just watch it eventually die, and then we have to go into this new system, blockchain or cryptocurrency. So yeah, I mean, China's getting rid of the US dollar. What do you all think about that? How do you feel about that? You think it's real? Do you feel like China's saying, look, we dump in the US, we're going to have to bulk up and back our own currency, right? All these countries are going to be using ISOs, in my humble opinion, based on the information I've been looking at. They're possibly going to be using ISOs and producing their own stable coins to run on them, backed by their native currency, right? So I don't know. Share your thoughts. Let me know how you feel about that. But other than that, I mean, that's all I got today. It's just maybe we got to think a little bit more as we prepare for tomorrow. Some major things are going on with these countries and these currencies and this debt. They don't talk about it too much on local news, so that means you have to look at alternative news, and then you have to read alternative articles to find out what's really going on. But right now, we're in something tough. I don't know how it's going to turn out, other than prepare yourself for something new, because it looks like it's going that direction. But I'm just here talking. Anyways, that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed the video. I will catch you all in the next episode.